But at this point, thanks to the miracle of television, I shall transport myself to New York. This is Variety, the Bible of American show business. Everything that goes on in film, theatre, television, you name it, is covered in here. If it's not in Variety, it isn't even happening. The magazine was founded some 86 years ago, and since then it's developed a language, or rather a slanguage of its own. Indeed, one of its claims is that it's introduced more words and phrases into common usage in English, or anyway in American, than any other publication. Words like cliffhanger, sitcom, baloney, bimbo, and many, many more. Caroline, kick off by telling me some of the really well-known Variety speak words, headlines, phrases.
Well, the ones that I think that have gotten into the language the most include things like bomb. If a show doesn't do well, it bombs. A show flops. A woman of easy virtue is called a pushover. A woman whose figure is more conspicuous than her accomplishments is a bimbo. Nonsense that is meant to deceive is baloney. Sex appeal. Hoofer, chick.
These all started in Variety?
They did. For example, bimbo is a word that is said to have come from the brothels on 47th Street. The offices were on 46th. Then Variety writers were sort of known for being proud of being of the people, and they hung out there with the prize fighters and the prostitutes and the various show business communities. So they picked up a lot of words and they passed a lot of words along and they invented their own.
You know, it's amazing that a magazine with a circulation of, what, around 40,000 should have such an impact on the language. Why is that?
Variety stories seem to travel a lot. And with the stories and the news traveled the words. And because the words were amusing and entertaining, and there's a great a feeling, I guess, that they were terribly American, that the paper was in a hurry, that it was that it didn't have time for convention and for euphemism, and it was kind of headlong, and that was fun about it.
Variety is known for its headlines with apparently totally invented words.
Right.
Give me some examples of those.
Well, some of the ones that have been our favorites over the years. One of them was Wall Street lays an egg. Now, that was obviously a headline that was on the paper for the stock market crash. And there aren't invented words in that, but the outrageousness is there, and you sets a tone. The other one that's probably the second most best-known headline is Sticks, Nicks, Hicks, Picks.
Which means?
And that one you have to think about. Sticks means rural, people in rural areas. Nicks means they don't like them. Hicks means people who live in rural areas. Those they don't like pictures about people like them. And so pictures like that don't play well in rural areas.
Do people still sit around the office trying to think of new Variety speak words?
Absolutely. When we, you know, most of the language that's really unusual in Variety is now in the headlines. And every week on Friday when we're closing the paper, we spend several hours trying to come up with the best headlines we possibly can. And one of the ways in which I like to think about it is that if you work at another newspaper, this is a game that goes on at every newspaper, trying to come up with colorful headlines. But most newspapers, the most outrageous headlines, everyone laughs and then you throw them away. Well, at Variety, we run those headlines. We run the heads that are just a little bit over the top. Now, one head that we had a lot of fun with this year was right after Matsushita bought MCA Universal. And we sat around for a long time trying to think of how we could come up with a perfect Variety headline to express the enormity of this event, and that we felt that there was really a turning point in Hollywood. Now that the second studio was in Japanese ownership, that it would really shift people's feelings about who was running the movie business. And we tried to come up with the right words, and finally we ended up writing the headline in Japanese.
Okay, you didn't tell anybody, they found out for themselves. Tell us, what exactly did the headline mean?
The headline went with a story that was our advice to Matsushita on owning a Hollywood studio, and the headline meant buyer beware.
Caveat emptor.
Right.
And as some of the Japanese in Hollywood have discovered, that's advice they might well have taken.